Hi everyone, welcome to Becky's Crafts and Goodies, and welcome to a bit of a baking vlog for you here today.
Becky's Crafts and Baking Goodies.
Featuring Phoebe. Well, I've got to make a certain birthday girl's birthday cake. It's her birthday tomorrow, and thank you so much for some cards. We've had a few birthday cards come in the post as well. But Phoebe is going to make these while I'm making the cake. We got them from B&M, didn't we?
Drumsticks, well, they're already drumsticks. They're squishy. If you don't know what squishies are, they're not really squishies, you know, they're toy squishies.
No, they're not the toy squishies, no.
They're like sweets.
Yep.
So they're just those.
And you're going to make those.
And I'm doing these. But they're cupcakes.
They are. Now, I said to Phoebe, Ebony started by making these box cakes. So you've all got to start somewhere. So Phoebe's starting baking just like Ebony did,
Yeah,
and Courtney.
They also come with some.
And Chloe used to do them as well. Get some cake cases. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you the other side of the kitchen. So I've got a stash of things ready here. This is the baking tin that I'm going to use. It's a rectangular one because it's quite a large size that I'm going to make. This is the cake for her actual birthday, which will be for family. And then on the day after Ebony's birthday, as I said to you, we're having a bowling party. It's literally just for her friends from school. So I've got one of those cakes from Asda, and just a free from cake there, so you know people have got a little bit of cake to have. Here are some of the bits and pieces that I'm using for the main cake. We've got the chocolate favoured ready to roll icing. That's really nice if you're making a chocolate cake. This is the sugar paste that I used on the other ones. We've got some candles. I'll be using this to decorate the little flowers. Now I've just picked up some of this cheap chocolate from Aldi, I think it was, because Ebbs wants to do strawberries with chocolate on, melted chocolate tomorrow, Sunday, for when our friends come round. So we just got the cheap one for theirs, and then obviously we've got to get the dairy free ones, but it'd be too expensive to buy everybody dairy free. And in here I've also got an icing transfer, which I'll be able to show you. So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to start by mixing the ingredients in my trusty mixer. And if you haven't seen these before, the KitchenAids are absolutely fantastic. I'll put a link for Amazon in the description down below if you fancy treating yourself to one of those. So let's get cracking. Okay, so I'm just going to show you now how to make the little flowers. So I've got some cake decorating sugar paste here. This is just like an ivory kind of colour, and I've got this stamp. This is like a daisy kind of stamp, and I'm just holding the camera now just to show you. So all you do is you push the stamp down like that, and then if I just move over here, you just press and it presses them out. So that's the first stage. So I'm going to do loads of these, cut loads of these out, and then I'll show you what we do in the centre. Right, so we're just rolling some little tiny balls. Phoebe's helping me now, and then what we're doing is putting them in the middle of the flowers like that. Can you see? So it looks like a little daisy, and Phoebe's helping me as well, aren't you, Phoebes? Just laid them all out on some greaseproof paper, and I'm just going to leave these overnight to set, and because they're on the greaseproof paper it will stop them sticking, so they should be easy to lift off. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to decorate the middle with a little bit of pink, and then they should be ready to use. Right, so it says, yeah, milk, a medium-sized egg. You can use normal milk because Mum can't have these anyway. Well, they haven't got milk in, so we could have them.
Yes!
So if you use soya milk, Mum and Ebony can eat these.
I'm not using soya milk.
Yeah. So it says, empty the cake mixture sachet into the bowl and add 1 medium egg.
2 hours later.
So put that in a bowl, and then you got to crack 1 egg.
Okay, I'll crack the egg in a second. I've been practicing cracking eggs for so long. Ooh, so.
Got it?
Yeah.
And then put the milk in.
I'll do this way so
That's
you
it.
can see. Satisfying.
Tip it in, just tip it in. Tip it all in. And then mix.
is the best part.
Right, so I'm going to measure out the ingredients. Now, the book that I use, we've had them for years and years and years, is the B-Row book. This is like old and battered and whatever now. But if you've seen the B-Row flour in the shops, you can actually, I think you used to be able to collect tokens and send off the money for just the postage, and you can get these B-Row books. So my mum always used to use these, and these are what I've still got, you know, and use to this day. So the recipe for the Victoria sandwich that I always use comes out of the B-Row book, and the standard recipe is 4 ounces of self-raising flour, 4 ounces of marge, 2 eggs and 4 ounces of sugar. So that's like across the board what you would use for like a plain Victoria sandwich. I'm going to add a bit of chocolate into this one, so I just substitute a little bit of the flour, take a bit of the flour out, and put some cocoa in. So you could probably take like, you know, half an ounce or an ounce out, whichever, you know, depending how chocolatey you want it. There are different chocolate recipes in the B-Row book, but that's the one that I like. So I've got quite a big tin here, so I'm going to put obviously a lot more mixture in than that, and quite a few eggs. And I'm going to use this, let me show you the lid, this soft spread that comes from Morrison's. That's what it looks like. And that's dairy free, and that makes really nice cakes and really nice butter icing, because otherwise they're a bit, you can't really get a very good consistency with butter icing with some dairy free margarines. But I find that this works really quite well, and it's quite inexpensive, whereas if you was to buy the big tubs it would work out quite a lot of money. So what you need to do to start with is to measure out your margarine, put that into your mixer. Any mixer will do, but I would recommend mixing it with some kind of mixer, because you can do it by hand, but it does take a little while. So we're going to measure out the butter, or margarine should I say, and the sugar. Now I'm just going to use granulated sugar. You can use caster sugar. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Caster sugar is just a bit finer than the granulated sugar. That's the only difference. And caster sugar is specifically for cakes, but it really doesn't matter. Sugar is sugar to me, so I find it works quite well. And then we'll pop those in the mixer and we'll give them a mix. I always use a kitchen roll when I'm measuring out margarine, because it just keeps your little tray nice and clean. Obviously I wash them out anyway after I've been baking, but it just helps you to be able to pop the sugar in and not get loads of marge stuck to it. You want to whisk this really, really well. The butter, or the margarine, and the sugar should become lighter in colour, and this helps cakes to be kind of light and fluffy and have a nice consistency. So just make sure that you mix that really well. Right, when you think you've nearly finished, if you can look inside there, get yourself a spatula, scrape it all down from the outsides, because you get bits sometimes that haven't mixed properly, and then you want to put that on again. And if you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but the mixture has become lighter than it started. So I'm just going to give that a little whiz round, and then I'm going to put the chocolate and the cocoa and also the flour inside. Right, so now I'm going to put the flour in. This is the gluten-free flour. I like to use the Dove flour, Dove free from flour, but this is good as well. This is from Asda. So I'm going to pop some of that in. So I'm going to leave some out. Now, as a rule of thumb, when you're using eggs weigh or take the place of 2 ounces. So however many ounces you do, so say if I'm doing 10 ounces, I would use 5 eggs. So that's a way you can double your recipes up. Go up in 2s, depending on the size tin that you've got. You know, a standard round tin, you could probably do 6 ounces, a couple of 6 ounces. We sometimes do 8 on like an 8-9 inch tin, but they're quite tall, so you could do 6, and then that would be 3 eggs. So what I'm going to do is just measure this out and hope that I've got enough mixture, and if I haven't got enough mixture, then I'll just make some more and pop that on top. I'm also going to line the baking tin as well. So I'll just grab some cocoa. I always just pop my cocoa on top of my flour and just measure it that way. And then all that now needs to go in here. And we also need to put in 5 eggs as well, because I'm starting with 10 ounces. I'm going to see if I think it's enough. So I'll just crack the eggs and pop them in as well. Now some people alternate the flour, put a little bit of flour in, put some eggs in, mix it round, then I put a bit more flour in, eggs, and mix it round. I don't. I just put it all in and just mix it all up. Start by putting it on a little bit slower, because you've got your flour in there and it's going to probably puff up. That's all I do, and then I just switch it up as it kind of mixes round a little bit more, and that is your batter. Right, so I use grease-proof paper to line my tins. Makes baking so much easier. What I tend to do is to grease the bottom, a bit of kitchen roll, kitchen towel with normal margarine first. Obviously it has to be dairy free in our case. Then I cut out a long strip of grease-proof paper that kind of comes and goes up the side like that, and then I put a bit on that side as well, and I always grease over the top. Don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but that's how I do it. And then once that's done, we'll pour the mixture in, and then that can go in the oven to cook. Right, in case you're wondering, this is 13 by 9, so it's quite a bit of a beast of a tin. So what we're going to do now is just put this mixture in to the cake tin, and if I think that it's not enough in there, then I'll just make up another 2 ounces of mixture. So I'll just put another egg in, because honestly I really can't remember how much I put in before, but I don't like small cakes. Nobody really wants a flat cake, do they? So you've got to be able to taste it in. It's very awkward because I'm leaning right over the tripod, so it's really hard to get into it. So all you need to do is just put that in and just spread that out, and this is going to be 1/2, so this is going to go in the oven, and then when it's out, I'll just pop it on a cooling tray, wash the tin, and then go again. If you are interested in this type of tin, I'll put the link down below from Amazon, and you can have a look. Now I've only got 1 of these tins. I do like to have 2, because what I do is I put the cakes in at exactly the same time, but I've only got 1 of these. I bought this purposely for a cake I did for a friend of ours a couple of years ago, and I only bought 1 at the time, so I have only got 1 of these, but I do use it, so it's probably worth me investing in another one, really, because it really does save on time. So I'm just going to finish smoothing this out now, pop it in the oven, and then I'll be back with you. The cake's out the oven now, so I'm just going to let that cool for just a minute or 2, and then I'm going to turn it out onto the cooling rack. Meanwhile, I am decorating these little daisies that we made last night. Now I'm just using this little powder here. It's actually called Blossom Tint. You can put it on dry, it's just that there, but what I've done is I've added a little bit of alcohol to it, so you can add either vodka or gin, like a clear liquid, and it just makes a paint. So all you need to do is just to paint that on the middle, because obviously I wanted it kind of a definite sort of colour in the middle. So what I've done is mixed up this little paint, and I'm just painting this on now. And there are all the others that are all done. I have no idea how many I'm going to need, so I thought I'll do lots, and hopefully they'll all look okay. Don't blow it! The cakes are both out now, they're just cooling, and I'm going to make the butter icing. Okie dokie, so what we're going to do, the rule of thumb is to use half the amount of margarine as you do icing sugar. So this is the icing sugar that I'm going to use, and if you're going to make it like flavoured, like a chocolate kind of thing, you just substitute some of the icing sugar for some cocoa powder, and that's what gives it the chocolatey look and flavour. And also I'm just going to use some of this vanilla flavour, and it's just a cheap one from Asda, and there's the cocoa powder, the same one that I'm just going to use. So depending on the size cake that you need will depend how much butter or margarine that you need. Now I've got quite a big cake, so I'm going to start by doing maybe 8 ounces of margarine, and then I'll use 16 of icing sugar, but I'll probably take out a couple, so maybe use 14 and do 2 cocoa. So do you see what I mean? You just have to substitute it and do it that way. So what I normally do is put it in, mix it around exactly the same way, put some of the vanilla flavouring in, and I'll start and sandwich it into the cake. Now if I find I haven't got enough, then I'll just come over and make a little bit more. Right, so when you're making buttercream, if you actually use real butter, then I would suggest putting a little bit of water in your buttercream. But sometimes with dairy free, you don't really need it. So what I'm going to do is to get the buttercream and pop it in the middle of the cake. And what I've done is I've put this cake on the board, because I generally ice it on the board. Once it's done, I'd never want to move it. So I'm going to put like a finish, but you need to be able to taste it, lay it in the middle, and then I'm going to just literally put the other one on top of it. It's like you're making a sandwich, and you're just going to put a bit of filling in and then put this on top. So if you're making, say, a Victoria sponge cake, what you would do is you do like jam, and you do this mixture, but it would be more sorry, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. Let me just move that up a bit so you can see. It would be more just the plain buttercream. So that's what you just have to bear in mind. So you just put a bit of jam on it. So you could do like strawberry jam or raspberry jam or anything like that. I know people do like lemon curd. You can do all sorts of things. So I'm just going to smooth this over. Now what you can do, what some people do, is they slice a bit of the cake so it sort of makes it level. I never do that. I never bother it, because I just feel like I'm wasting the cake. But what people do is they slice it off, make it level, sort of slice around the edge. But it does help if you put a layer of icing, this buttercream icing, around the outside of the cake as well. It does help to stick. So I'm going to stop chattering because I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing. I'm going to level this off, and then we'll put the next one on the top. Right, I'm just going to put this on the top. And with cakes, you just kind of have to be a bit brave. You know, don't let them kind of scare you. You just have to sort of go for it. So I'm just going to put this top one on top. So just lay it on the top like that. And as you can see, it's a real high kind of cake. And what I'm going to do with this is, sorry, I'm just going to lean over, get the buttercream, and this needs to be thinner. So on the top needs to be thinner than you've done it in the middle, and just go all the way over the cake, and this will help the icing, the rolled icing, to stick to the cake. Okay, so you just go all the way over. I tend to put some on, and then I'll just kind of like scrape it off if I've got too much on. And what we'll do as well, let me show you on the sides, these palette knives are really handy. You just need to go around the sides as well, and this will just help to smooth everything out and make it look neat. So I'm just going to go and finish this off now, because I need to stand just where the tripod is, and then we'll do the next stage of putting the icing on. But this is honestly, it's a dead simple style of cake. It's nothing fancy. I know it probably looks it, but it's not really. And don't be afraid to make them. If you haven't made cakes before, maybe you're just starting out baking and things like that, and you haven't done them, just follow the recipe, or you can just look on look online for Victoria sandwich recipes and give it a go. I mean, my tip, as I said earlier, is to get a couple of cake tins, because it does you know, take the time down quite considerably. Line them, that always helps if you've lined your tins. weigh your measurements out. I mean, I tend to do different measurements depending what cake I'm doing, and I always forget like how much icing I used on that one and how much, you know, this sort of thing. But just give it a go, you know, don't be afraid to do it. And if it doesn't rise very well, remember, don't open the oven door. That's the thing, don't keep opening that, because you'll let out a lot of the heat and your cakes won't rise. But get yourself some self-raising flour and some eggs and sugar and all the little ingredients, and just give it a go, because if the first one's rubbish, it doesn't matter. And that's what I always say to you guys, just give things a go, and it's fun. It's basically baker's crafting, isn't it? It's crafting but in a baking way. So I'm just going to finish smoothing this out now. Also, another tip is you can dip this in a bit of water. If you feel it's a bit thick, you can kind of like dip it in a little bit of water, and that sort of smooths it round. But I've probably got just about enough in here. If I think it's a bit thick, I'll just take a little bit off, and then we'll roll out the icing and we'll pop that on as well. Okay, so we're going to just cover the top now. So I've got this icing. Just going to open the packets. Carl seems to be singing in the living room. Let's open these. The annoying thing is the tripod always stands exactly where I need to stand. So I need to sort something out really, so I can record at a different angle. So what we need to do to start with is kind of work these a little bit, because they've been stuck in a packet. So these all need to be worked together, and what I normally do is just squidge them a little bit and then kind of all blend them together. Now I've got 3. I guess this. I have no idea if 3 is the right amount, but I think it should be all right. So we'll just mould these together, get them in a bit of a shape. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And then we'll use a little light sprinkling of icing sugar, but you do need icing sugar because it will stick to the worktop. And then we'll put a little bit of that over our rolling pin as well. So I'll get my muscles working. Get this all moulded together. Look, it looks like a cow pat, look. Yummy, yummy. I'm hoping this is okay. I don't want to mould it too much and mess about with it too much. I'm hoping that it will roll out okay. So the good tip is to obviously make sure your worktop is clean. Make sure your hands are clean, as you do any time when you're cooking. And we're going to just smear a little bit of the icing sugar on. We also want to put some on our rolling pin. Now be careful, because when you're using white icing or cream or anything like that, you're absolutely fine to put white powder, so to speak. You've got your icing sugar over the top. But when you've got a chocolate colour, if you can see, I've just touched it there, and it leaves like a white kind of mark. So I don't tend to put too much on my rolling pin, but you will need to put some on. So you just need to roll it out, and as you're rolling it, move it, because you'll stand there and you'll roll, and you'll roll it and it'll all stick to the worktop. And that's never a good look, because then you have to undo it and start it all again and peel it all off. It's very frustrating. So do a bit, work it round. Just got loads of icing sugar on it, but I mean, it does rub off, but I tend to try, if I can, not to get too much on. So a good tip as well is to measure the top of your cake, measure the sides. If you're doing a round cake, then kind of just do it in a round. But if it's a square, like roll it to sort of the shape that you want. So I'm just going to finish rolling this out, and then we'll transfer it onto the main cake. Okay, so we're all rolled out now. What we need to do, if you can see, this rolling pin's got like a ledge on it. What I really need is a rolling pin that's flat all the way to the end, because sometimes it leaves like little marks. So if you are going to make a bigger cake, get a rolling pin that goes all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do now is, Carl's my assistant. Normally Ebony helps with this, but she's not looking at the moment. I'm going to get the icing and I'm going to roll it very loosely around the rolling pin, and my assistant card is going to put the cake in its place. And I'm hoping that I'm in shot, and all you need to do is just drape it over like that. Okay, so that's over the cake. Obviously there's some icing sugar, but that can come off, and all I do is just get my hand so it's not covered in icing sugar and just kind of put it down like that and go all the way around the edge, and then we're going to trim off the excess. Okay, so all you need to do to get this off here is to get a knife and run it along, but be careful not to go too, I don't know if you can see there, let me just pull the camera down a little bit. Be careful not to go too close, because you need to allow room to sort of like push it back. So just come out a little bit and run your knife all the way up the cake, just to take the extra off, and then that part there should just push in. Okay, so I'm just going to go around the cake and just do that all the way around the edge. Right, so I'm going to put on this cake one of these photo icing sheets. Now I've got this, you can get these from eBay or sellers. Now, what does Ebony love? Everybody think, what does Ebony love? Who does Ebony love? Ready? 1, 2, 3. You guessed it. Happy birthday. Da, da, da. Okay, so to get these off, it's really easy. You can get wafer ones, but I prefer the icing ones, okay? And they come on one of these little clear backing strips. So what you need to do, I'm just going to rest it there to show you, is to get a knife very carefully, and you can run it through like that, just so it's easy to get off. So point your knife downwards so you don't go through the actual part itself, and that just loosens it all the way. Okay. Right, so what you can do then is just roughly work out where it's going to go. Now on eBay you can buy so many different like sizes. Let me just bring it in a little bit. And like designs, you can get them personalised, you can do so much stuff. Once you've worked out where it's going to be, because I think I'm just going to bang it straight in the middle, or it can kind of go to the side if you want to. And what you need to do to put them on is to get a little bit of water, and you can put it on the cake, or you can put it on the back of this, but just be careful not to get the actual pattern. Not pattern. Just be careful not to get the front wet, because that will run if that's wet. So it's just a very, very light dusting of water, and make sure you do the edges as well, because that's what helps it to sort of stick down nicely. You can always lift it up, and then just make sure your hands are dry and just go over like that, and then just flatten it with your hand. Once you've committed yourself, that's it, you've got to go for it. And I've just got some wet on the cake, which isn't good, but as long as the icing sheet doesn't run, I'm not too fussed. Okay, so I've also got some flowers that I bought from a local cake shop, and I bought the cake board from there as well. And what I'm going to do with them is to kind of group a few at the top like this. So it's always best just to sort of work out how you want them kind of to start with. And obviously we made these as well. And what I'm going to do is to just put those around the edge, because when you're doing like a cake, it's like decoupage really. You want it to be like the same kind of colour, but because there's quite a definite difference between these two colours, I thought it probably needed something to break it up. So that's why I wanted to make these flowers, and I don't know how many I need. I just kind of, me and Phoebe just made some. So I'm going to go round and do that, and I thought with the colours there will also match the colours in here. So I'm just going to make myself some paste up, and to do that I'm going to use icing sugar, a bit of cocoa to make it brown, a little bit of water, mix it into a thick paste, and that's what I'm going to use just to stick these on. So this is the mixture that I've just made, and very carefully, because these are quite fiddly, we're going to put some on the back of each. I'm just going to use the back of a spoon. We don't really need a lot. I often use cocktail sticks for this, and we are just literally going to use that as a little bit of paste. And all these we made yesterday just to give them a chance to kind of set a little bit. And I think what I might do is leave like a little bit of a gap, because I think that would look quite cute, and go all the way around. So we are going to show her a cake tonight, because it will be, well, she's asked to see it, if she's allowed to see it tonight. Obviously her birthday's tomorrow, so I've said yes. She's not seen any of it so far, so she's avoiding the kitchen, so we'll let her see it. So I'm just going to carry on with this, and then I'll be back with you when we're ready to do the top flowers. Have a look at your cake.
It's got Harry on it. That's so cool. Thank you.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
You're welcome. And there we go. So that's how to make a birthday cake. I hope you all enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.